Well, we are technically getting started now, so I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a brief introduction. Greetings, Dr. Cold Shower. Hold on here a second. Oh, that's AI. Whoops. Yeah, anyway, so basically, what you guys need to know about me is here in the tribe and really everywhere in life, I specialize in peak performance. The thing that I do the most for people is I help them to dial in their workflows. I help them dial in systems, productivity, mindset, anything that is geared towards helping you perform better, think quicker, and get things executed in a timely manner. So, as we're opening up, people are going to have opportunities to join, and this is being recorded, so we're going to have the footage for people who don't get to see it while it's live. So, for those of you who are here, who has any questions for me? Hang on. Yeah, oh, here. I don't know why. Okay. Everyone has requests for speak permissions enabled. Let's see. Wants to find an effortless way to read daily so that he doesn't miss it no matter what. Yeah, so if you're working on a singular habit, I think that that's a very easy thing to start with. I think the thing to examine first is what's really coming up around that. Because if you're having difficulty around a specific thing, that could actually be a deeper issue related to it. But if it is just for some reason, I guess it's something he has trouble getting around to, it might be a priorities thing. And so at that point, it's just to make it as easy as possible, and something that kind of just happens automatically. Anyhow, let's see. Yeah, asking for a friend, man. Yeah. Do you wanna hop up here and just give me the whole rundown? Might be able to help you better if I get the bird's eye view, so to speak. No pressure, of course. Time management. Yep, that's a big one. Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Cold Shower over here. Looks like you're a new member. Welcome, welcome. Uh, I think if you would like to, you can come up here and speak. Yeah, no, typing is perfectly fine, brother. If you'd rather type, go ahead and type away. I'm not going to be going anywhere, so feel free. Right on. Pretty, pretty typical self improvement stack that a lot of people have. Yeah, yeah, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit you with one of the deeper realizations. And the thing is, this is what I'm about to talk to you about is kind of a big and difficult and nuanced issue to solve. But if you do, you will literally never procrastinate again. So I want to make that very clear. Basically, the reason this comes up is because of something that I like to refer to as a split ego state, right? And a split ego state is, we've all experienced this. How many times do you wake up in your day and you've got one voice telling you to do this thing, and then you've got another voice telling you to do this thing, right? Like your inner advocate is like, yeah, do the good hobbies, do the hard stuff, do the hard work when you, especially when you don't feel like it, as Hamza would say. And then you got the other half that's like, oh man, you're so bored. Why are you doing this to yourself? Oh, it's not going to hurt you. Just take one look at your phone, or, just text that friend or whoever, whatever you're trying to put off. And what ends up happening is this internal battle, like this side eventually ends up winning. And the reason for that is because these split ego states they're split. They're not on the same team. They're not working for each other. But the caveat is each part of yourself, including these split ego states, they all have some kind of positive intention for you, and that's why they stay alive, and that's why they come up in our lives so much. So the reality is, this part of you that wants to procrastinate, it's not against you. It's trying to help you. It's like it's either trying to pull you away from boredom, or it's trying to pull you away from anxiety. It's trying to help you out. It's helping you to manage things better. And the thing is, when we make a space for these different parts of ourselves to communicate with each other and to understand each other, this is when inner work can be done, and this is when we can actually resolve these issues. This is something I would call a shadow issue, and it's specifically a split ego state. Now, the process to resolving that is a lot of inner work. I would personally recommend getting in touch with a professional in that area. I do have good guys that I can refer you to for that, because I'm not personally an expert in shadow work myself. However, things that you can do in the beginning to see better results with your procrastination is to, first of all, inner forgiveness. Anytime this comes up, we're not being critical to ourselves. Why? Because that part of you that wants that is still a part of you. It still has a positive intention. So you can think of it as your inner child, right? So you're an adult. You want to make good decisions. You want to make decisions that are going to have a lasting impact in your life, that are going to propel you forward, right? Your habits, your 1% improvements every day. Your child still wants you to improve, but what do children do? They don't solve problems. They create problems more often than not. So we're not trying to push him away or wall him out of our lives. We're trying to communicate to him, and we're trying to get him on the same page as us. So one thing I'll do with myself during my meditation practice is I do something called embodying the unconditional loving witness. Now, what does that mean? Well, what do you think of when you think of a therapist? You think of a guy with a clipboard, probably wearing white with glasses, whatever, just being unconditionally loving to this person, listening to all those thoughts pour out, all the feelings, getting all the things out onto the table. And when this happens, it makes it so much easier for all of those thoughts to come out. And what I want you to do next time the urge to procrastinate comes up, I want you to sit down and I want you to get in a meditation, right? Quiet your mind just a little bit. And then once you have, instead of addressing this symptom, instead of feeling that symptom to procrastinate and procrastinating and feeding the symptom, I want you to just sit with it and see what comes up. See what storylines your mind creates to try and get you to do this. And try to discern, once you come out of this meditation, you're going to have a lot of things. First off, you're going to understand a lot more about the symptoms. You're going to understand the internal processes and why these symptoms even come up in the first place. Because for me, when that would come up, it was boredom and it was anxiety. And I was able to figure that out by sitting with it and allowing these triggers to come up, not addressing them directly, but sitting with them, gaining intelligence about them, and now being able to assign labels to them and understand them so that when they come up in our day-to-day life, we understand where it's coming from. And the process of resolving it, once we are aware of our triggers and once we are aware of those struggles, like I said, it is something a bit more nuanced to deal with. So that's probably something that you would need to get in touch with a professional for. But as far as identifying what's causing your procrastination, that is by far the best way to do it, to actually sit down with these feelings and these voices that produce those things for us. And then we can understand it. And when we understand something, we can start understanding our inner child. And when we understand our inner child, we can manage it and we can use it in a way where it doesn't just run in, guns a-blazing and wreck plans that we have, but we can see the inner child coming up. We can understand what's happening and we can address it from a point where we actually know the whole background of what's going on. Now, I know that's a bit wishy-washy, right? That's a very abstract thing to say. It's a very abstract thing to do as well. So the actionable thing I would say for you to do so far, I want you to, DM me privately, and I'm going to send you something. It's going to be a small resource. It'll have some information on how to do this. It's going to have information on how to illuminate this stuff. And if you have any issues coming up around it, feel free to reach out to me. I'm not a professional. I can't help you resolve this issue, but I can help you understand it. And what I'm going to be sending you is a resource that came from one of my mentors in this space. And so I think it's a good first step towards solving procrastination, especially because I know a lot of you guys are still in college, uni, or high school and don't have a lot of money to throw around into therapy and things like that. So I think this is a great way to get a foot in the door, a very affordable way to do so because it's free. And at the end of the day, it's momentum, and we're gaining momentum on this issue, and understanding it is the first step to solving it. So I'm sorry I can't solve that issue for you directly. It is a deeper thing, but I think that if you go through this process fully, this problem can fully go away and never come back. So I see I got 3 messages here. Gotcha. Okay. Looks like we got a new member in the audience. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. For anybody who is new here, who has not been here the entire time, if you have any questions for me and you don't want to show up here, you can type it in the chat. Otherwise, you can raise your hand. I'll admit you up here and we can have a back and forth conversation about it. Thoughts on building consistency? Yeah, so first of all, that's a great question. I think consistency is different for different people. And what I mean by that is building consistency is actually a 3-step process. And each one has its own hurdles that you're going to have to jump through. But starting out is dependence. If you want to start being consistent, if you haven't been consistent on something for a long, long time, if you're just starting to build consistency, maybe you've been, your characterization of lazy in one certain area and you need consistency, the best place to start is with systems and something that is very rigid in the beginning, something that's not even going to give you a lot of opportunity to do the wrong thing that you don't want to do. And from there, we actually get good at it. You're going to notice you're taking more action. You're being more consistent. You're getting more things done. Now we're moving into stage 2, which is independence. And now you're going to be like, man, this is kind of natural to me right now. Do I even need this website blocker up right now? Do I even need my phone in the other room right now? Like, couldn't it be on my desk if I get notifications? Or do I even need to do this extra 2 hours of work today? It's going to get done another time. We become independent of the systems that we built. And this is where most people drop off. This is where most people think they're doing something wrong and they're like, oh, let me go back to dependency. Let me go back to those hard, rigid systems. Let me rewrite my purpose, find my motivation again, find everything again, make it all come together like it was in the beginning. But that's not actually what we do. What we do to fix the independence issue is we become something known as interdependent. Okay, interdependence. This is when we have systems, we have routines, we have protocols, but we have taken the best aspects of independence and dependence, and we've now fused them together. This essentially looks like you having very good bulletproof systems, but you also are able to use your intuition and trust your intuition in the right places. It's not a spot that people build up to easily, but it's definitely something you can get to. But depending on where you're at, I think you should probably start with some new systems and just write down like what's working. Like I literally have a Google Doc that is visible in my Notion second brain that I have on my laptop, and it just says what's working right now. And I just have all of the best practices that are helping me at the moment, and I can freely add and take away things from that because I'm interdependent now. The system's cool, but I'm not attached to it. Things can change. I can change. My circumstances could change. So the system has to be flexible as well, or it's going to fail inevitably. So through interdependence, I've learned to act independently of system and dependent on a system. So now we have this fun interplay where we are at our best regardless of what's happening with the system and regardless of what's happening in our personal life. And I think that that's what you should ideally be building towards. But I'm curious, man. In terms of building consistency, is this a specific thing that you're trying to build consistency in? Or are you looking for a framework to apply to a bunch of different things? Or is this more about one area of your life or business or something like that? I'd love to give you more specialized opinions on that. or were you just asking for the group? Because I'm looking at how it's worded now. Pull me up. Are you? Oh, you mean? Hold up. I must have been hitting the sauce to read this. Oh, here. All right, all right.
Very sorry.
Yeah, I didn't see a
Yeah,
request. That's my bad. Go ahead.
actually, no, that's okay. I literally just thought like maybe it would be just better just to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm looking to just build consistency literally in everything in my life.
Sure.
Just being able to consistently show up, do 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 the work, pretty much every day.
Mm.
Um, even if it is just like a little bit on one time at one day. And yeah, I was just curious. Sorry, I'm still a little sick. Curious to your thoughts about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to make a differentiation real quick too. A lot of times when we try to find consistency in everything, um, it's actually hurting us, and I'll tell you why that is. The thing is, we live in a world where everybody prioritizes optimization when I would tell you it's best to prioritize elimination. Okay, people come in swinging with self-help habits in the self-improvement industry, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to meditate 20 minutes a day, then I'm going to do my 2-hour workout, then since I'm still in my post-workout window, I'm going to eat this meal with these macros, and then I'm going to put it in this spreadsheet at the end of the day, and then I have to journal, and then I have to cold shower, and all this stuff. And the point isn't necessarily to be consistent in all of it, because that, what is that doing? That's, we're projecting an inward need of control out into our lives, which, by the way, that's a very normal thing. I would say that's for about half of people. Half of people are perceivers who kind of go with the flow. The other half are judgers who like to have freedom in their internal world, but like to keep their outer world organized, right? And so, first of all, that's perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. What I would say is that if you're trying to be consistent at many things at once, I would I would prioritize a select few things in the beginning. So for me, what I like to do is I have something that I call 333, which is where I have 3 practices for my physical body, right? Just health, fitness, things like that. And then for the second one, I have practices for what I would call my subtle body, which is your mentality. This is your energy. This is your emotions, right? I have 3 practices that I do for that. And then there's the causal body, which is your purpose and like a more spiritual way of looking at things and fulfillment and satisfaction from life. And I have 3 practices that I do for that. And I keep that airtight. I'm not always consistent on those things, but I am consistently applying those methods, even if I miss a day here or there. As long as the trajectory doesn't change, I don't think you should beat yourself up for missing one day or things like that. And cognitive load as well. That's the final point I would make there is cognitive load. I had a friend who tried to optimize his alcohol intake, and he ended up,
Yeah.
optimizing it, getting everything written out, what he was going to do, what days, et cetera, what events. And when you put so much attention into something, you actually create more energy drained out of you to put into that thing. And so instead, he just decided to eliminate the alcohol, and now he doesn't get any cognitive load from that. And by prioritizing elimination over optimization, we can take out a lot of things that aren't really moving the needle in our life. So I think the answer to that is a combination of those 3 things.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you that you shouldn't you should learn to prioritize. You shouldn't have do everything in anything that has been recommended to you. Focus on three things like body, mind, and purpose, right? Um, and try to do something in each of those brackets every day if you can. I can just even if it's the smallest thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. I think momentum is the most important thing there. I think if you've built momentum, actually, it was one of my good friends that described it best to me. Don't see one missed day as a relapse. See one missed day as like a slip up. Whatever. One moth got through the screen door. It's still there. I'll put a patch up next time. Right. We'll build around that one area, and then if it happens again, it happens again. We don't beat ourselves up. We keep our faith in the system and also in our own abilities, and they come together and they make magic. So Yeah, I think as long as it's not causing stress, I think that's the biggest thing. We want to have internal forgiveness throughout the process, no matter what's happening. So,
Awesome. I think that's, yeah, you pretty much answered my question.
all right, wonderful, brother. Yeah, and to anybody else who has questions as well, feel free to raise your hand. I can invite you up here. Um, and Gould, do you have any other questions? I'm assuming not. You just hopped out. Um, that's cool. I'm still here to answer anybody's questions as they come. See, we got a new person joining the audience. Welcome or welcome back. Maybe the next time I do this, we should have some content prepared as well. We can do requests for that another time, though. Ideas to stop negative thoughts. Okay. That's a tricky one. I'm not even gonna lie. That's a tricky one. There's so many ways to come at that. So many different schools of thoughts here. I would say the first thing, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but there is something very well known now. It's very well known now. It's called neuroplasticity. And it's the idea that neurons that fire together wire together, and thoughts that are repeated actually gain a physical manifestation in our bodies. So the more negative thoughts you have, you're essentially becoming more prone to having negative thoughts in the future. And now, 2,000 plus years ago, people would have told you that this was the concept of karma. People would have told you that this is your own karma. This is coming back to you because we're the result of all the things we thought. And because you've thought it once in the past, now you can think about it again in the future. And now we know a little bit more about neuroplasticity, and that's how these things are showing up. I think if you're having these negative thoughts, I think that you should practice your mindfulness. Now, a lot of people get shocked when I say that because I'm a productivity coach and I'm telling you to go meditate. Like, how is that productive? Meditation is very good for your productivity. And the main thing about meditation is it allows us to lean into our most masculine side. Because what is the masculine? The masculine is, in its pure form, awareness. Awareness. And every time you sit down to meditate and you move into stillness and then a thought comes up and you let it go and you move back into stillness, that is an interaction with the feminine. Because what happens? For emotion to arise, a thought must also arise. So you think of something, you see a beautiful animal getting hit by a bus, and then it makes you sad. You had to think of something for that emotion to arise. So for a thought to be negative, we have to have a conceptualization of it as it's happening. What meditation is going to allow you to do is to let these thoughts go so quickly and develop such a mindfulness that you can let these thoughts go before the emotion clings onto it. So I think that a great way for you to stop negative thought patterns is to build up your awareness so much that you will be able to let go of these negative thoughts when they come up, because then what's happening? If we're letting these thoughts go as they come up, they have no bearing on us. They're going right back into the nothingness that they came out of. And because that's happening, how is it going to create a physical manifestation in us if we keep letting it go? It's not. And because we're actively letting go of those negative thoughts and building this up as a practice, those old neural pathways are going to die away. You're going to become a more positive person. You're going to become a more confident person. You're going to become a more empowered and enabled person everywhere you go. And it's all because of the meditation. So I think that building your mindfulness through meditation is one of the most, if not the most powerful way to get rid of negative thought tendencies. Hope that answers your question. I'm happy to discuss more things as well. How do I start meditation? Wow, what a great follow-up question. So, meditation, first off, I would say it depends a bit on your goal. We've all been in self-improvement at least for a little bit. What you guys may not know is there's actually so many different types of meditations. In fact, I would say people are starting to classify meditation as you just having your eyes closed and thinking about nothing at this point. That's kind of the characterization it has. If you see somebody with their eyes closed sitting down, they're probably meditating. The thing is, I do a specific kind of meditation known as tranquil wisdom insight meditation, abbreviated to TWIM. Now, what that form of meditation is, with the instructions I would give you, because I truly believe this is the most powerful form of meditation. In fact, going through text and practice, this is what people believe to be closest to the original practice of the Buddhist monks. And what they will do is they begin with letting feelings of loving kindness arise. So when you begin your sit, and now I'll give you some time to take notes here, because the steps I'm about to outline, they're not super complicated, but they are a bit sequential. So I might lose you at a point. So I would prefer if you're taking notes here, just, this is recorded. But anyway, I'll go ahead and get started. Let me know if you need a second to go grab some notes. To start tranquil wisdom insight meditation, like I said, we want to let that thought of loving kindness come up. And this has a manifestation in something that we can feel compassion for. Now, for me, I will personally just sit there, close my eyes, let the darkness set in, whatever. And when I'm sitting there, I envision the thought of me just holding an infant, or like a family member who was just born, and seeing them giggle, just sending loving kindness to this being that is in front of you, and feeling the love and the compassion. Now, some people, for whatever reason, have an aversion to children. So if that's you, you can always think of a puppy or a baby elephant or whatever really gets you feeling compassion. And keep in mind, we're not forcing anything to come up. We're doing, and I hate making this example, but we're essentially doing what a smoker does, right? Because when you smoke, you are creating conditions where cancer could arise. So we're essentially doing the same thing with the loving kindness. We are thinking about this, and that is creating the condition for these feelings of loving kindness to arise. And what you should feel is you should feel a warmth start in your chest, and eventually it should spread across your body and even into your head. And when this happens, then, and pay attention, after this happens, then we want to focus on sending it to all parts of ourselves and thinking of yourself as you're sending it. So first, think of yourself when you were like a child or a toddler. Send love to that part of yourself. Because I don't know who's listening in this call, but we've all had bad memories of ourselves. This is how we purify the mind. We go back and say, even though I did this stupid thing, I still love myself. Even though I did that stupid thing, I still love myself. And we're expanding our capacity for compassion. This is not only good for communication, this is good for self-love, this is good for doing things out of love, this is good for purifying the mind. And as this happens, you want to go up in age. We're starting at a young age. We're starting at like a toddler. Then you want to go to maybe you were 9 years old, just getting a little taller than the kitchen counter, making your own sandwiches, watching TV, playing video games, whatever it was for you. Send love to that version of yourself, the part of you that was maybe a troublemaker. And then we want to move up even further. Think of you when you were a teenager. Maybe you were a little skittish. Maybe you had some bad experiences with women. Whatever it was, send love to that send love to that version of yourself. And keep going until you get to your current self. And what you should feel now is that that feeling of love and that feeling of warmth should have completely expanded over your body. And if you ever lose it, go back to the thought of the infant or the puppy or whatever, and let it arise again, and then go back. This may happen if you have a lot of trauma or issues in your past where you can't really love yourself in a certain capacity. But if you do that enough, you'll definitely get through that stage. And then once you get to the end of that, all parts of yourself, then we want to focus on sending this to what we would call the spiritual friend. And good news is this is the final step, right? We're done here. We want to send it to a spiritual friend. The spiritual friend, we want to make sure that our spiritual friend that we select is somebody that we have no feelings of sexual attraction towards. So if you're straight, it can't be a woman. If you're homosexual, then it can't be a man, whatever. We just want to make sure that that's not going to be what's coming up in our head while we're sending loving kindness to a friend. You know what I mean? And so that feeling that arises in you, just have the intention to send that over to the person. You don't have to feel like energy flowing out of your head. You don't have to feel like any woo-woo stuff. Simply having the intention for this person to feel this way is enough for it to be being sent to them and qualify as that. And when you do this, these feelings will get stronger. They might even change to something else. Maybe it'll change from a feeling of loving kindness to like a more relaxed feeling, or maybe a lack of feeling thereof. And this is actually when meditation gets very deep. if anything like that comes up for you or you have any questions about it, reach out to me. I've been doing this now consistently for around a year, and I've seen amazing results with it. It is absolutely phenomenal, far more advanced than any form of meditation I've ever seen or experienced. And it, like I said, is truest to the actual practice the Buddhist monks used thousands of years ago, and very advanced. But in the beginning, sit for as long as you're comfortable with. But I would say it is best for you to do a 30-minute meditation sit with that practice, right? Like 5 minutes focusing on the infant, 10-ish minutes sending it to the different parts of yourself, and then the last of it should be the spiritual friend. And then as you grow more comfort, as you grow in more experience, you can sit for longer. 45 minutes, an hour and a half, 3 hours, whatever you're comfortable with. And the results only get better the longer you sit. So, hope that answers your question. Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the best ways to build that for yourself and for others. They've actually done studies on this, and people who do this consistently, they hooked electrodes up to their heads, and the portion of their brain that is responsible for producing serotonin and oxytocin and feelings of love and kindness actually grew much larger than in average people. Let's see. I got some more questions surfacing up. And keep in mind, if you guys want to just ask me directly and have a back and forth, you guys can join the stage as well. Let's see. Good ideas. You once meditated for 2 days. I can't say I've done that before. I definitely should try it. Let's see. What is the purpose of the spiritual friend? So in meditation, when we have a spiritual friend, this is essentially expanding that compassion, because we're sending it to ourselves first, and then when we get out of meditation, we are now almost training ourselves to bring this into the real world. And eventually, those feelings that you get in meditation are going to become almost default for you, and you're going to be communicating to people out of this loving and kind space. It's going to level up your communication immensely. You're going to connect so much easier with people. You're going to build instant trust and rapport with people. People are going to open up to you about things you probably wish they wouldn't, because you just met them 2 minutes ago. But it's definitely going to have an effect, and people notice it. You know, whether or not you believe in energy or whatever, people pick up on that stuff. Whether it's body language, whether it's whatever, people definitely treat me differently when I do stuff like that, and definitely in a positive way. Yep. So I wouldn't really say it changes it, but make sure it is to somebody who isn't a family member. I think that's another one, because sometimes we can have bad memories of family members or a friend that you had a falling out with. Anybody like that, I would not send it to in the beginning. You want to send it to somebody who is going to be easy to send it to, somebody you already have feelings of loving kindness towards. Somebody you already have those feelings for. And when you get more advanced in the practice, then you can send it to people who you have a bad history with. So, you'll be able to do it after a while. Does it actually send it to them? That's up for debate. You know, I'm not, my mentors would say yes. I'm not that woo-woo personally, but I do this because of very many practical benefits and things. I would like to think that it does. I would like to think that it does actually send it to them. We actually call them the Brahma Viharas, which are essentially 4 different states that you move through during meditation. And the one that is love and kindness is called metta. That's what it's called. Let's see. I don't know. The mentor that my mentor had, her name was Sister Kima. And she did in-house studies where she said that when people did this practice, the overall happiness of the people in the small communities they did it in actually rose. I'm not sure how they measured it. I'm not sure where these statistics are stored, but these are things that I've heard. And I can definitely say your personal experience will attest to this a lot as well. But keep in mind, guys, in meditation, doubt is one of the hindrances. So if you're ever wondering, like, dog, this isn't doing anything, I don't feel any different, that's perfectly normal. Don't judge yourself for thinking that, and definitely don't abandon the practice either, because meditation is definitely a practice that a lot of people have doubt in, because a lot of people just see it as I'm sitting with my eyes closed and not much is happening. And true to an extent, but stick with it and you'll definitely see some good results. Yeah, I would. So, let's see. Yeah, no, I absolutely am religious. And there are some things in that realm I'm still figuring out because, to be honest, a lot of that stuff that I felt in meditation, I've also felt in altar calls in churches and when praying over other people. So, I'm not 100% nailed down on a lot of this stuff. A lot of it is a learning process. A lot of it's very experiential. I'm definitely a Christian. I definitely believe in Christ. I believe in the history of the gospel. These other things are things that I'm exploring. Simple as that. He did technically, but I don't think he was talking about this kind of meditation. Hmm. Yeah, but the meditation meant in the Bible is more about like thinking about what you read after you read it. In the gospel we learn about. Oh, geez, you know what? That train of thought got derailed. Let me read this real quick. Uh, that's definitely. Oh, there's so many things I don't quite understand about what's happening here. It's okay though. We're along for the ride. All right, wonderful guys. Does anybody else have any other questions for me? We um, it may have sounded like we got a little off topic there, but this is actually something that I do for my clients as well because I personally treat work like a meditation, and when my thoughts wander away from the work at hand, I come back to it. It's like my object for meditation. Um, let's see. What are your recommendations for newer meditators? Well, first of all, sit in a comfortable position, please. You're not doing yourself any favors by getting in one of those weird lotus positions you see people in the YouTube videos. I mean, those definitely are valid, and you can get good at them, but I don't think that it's actually going to improve your meditation at all. I think a lot of people focus on the technical aspect of it. I think when you're starting out, focus on getting your foot in the door. Now, like I said, for the type of meditation I mentioned, 30 minutes is the recommended default time. When I started with my mentor, he said to sit 30 minutes minimum. That was the minimum for us. But I understand that is a lot potentially for a beginner. I didn't have trouble with it personally, but other people might. So if you are having difficulty getting your foot in the door, no need to put that much pressure on yourself. Set the timer for 30 minutes. But if you feel a super strong urge to get out of it that you simply are having trouble with, oh, I don't know how I didn't think of this, but another thing is called the 6 R's. So when a hindrance actually does come up during meditation, what you're going to do, and I've simplified them a little bit, much easier to grasp for a beginner. When a thought or a hindrance comes up, first of all, I want you to verbally, in your mind, say never mind, and just let whatever you were thinking about go back to the black screen that you see when your eyes are closed. Then after that, I want you to relax your mind, whatever that means to you. For me, that personally just feels like a tiny bit of tension going away from my mind, like in my actual brain. It might mean something different for you. Don't stress about it. Whatever that means to you, relax the mind. The next thing is to smile. And when we smile, we just do a gentle smile. Not a big teethy grin, you know what I mean? But yeah, just a small smile with the lips. And then you also want to think of smiling with your eyes and with your heart. And then after that, we simply go back. We go back. We return to what we were doing, which is nothing. Just focusing on whatever your object of meditation is at that point. Let's see. Yeah. I understand. That's actually a great point. Rest deficit definitely can come to play there. When we don't rest for prolonged periods of time, adenosine builds up in our brain, which over time makes us feel more and more tired. So even if you have perfect discipline, after a few days of doing that, that adenosine will never get fully flushed away if you're not getting a full night's rest, which, spoiler alert, is 8 hours. 8 hours is the best scientifically. You can get by on 7 or 6, but not for a prolonged period of time. Eventually, that buildup of adenosine will cause you to get so drained that you're not going to want to do anything. And I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. So, sleep is king, guys. Remember that. Oh, wow. I would love to hear about that sometime. That actually sounds really interesting. Yeah, so I guess to give a proper answer to your question, Mr. Dr. Cold Shower, being productive for a few days and then suddenly having a breakdown and not following up anymore. What I would say is, again, don't split your focus too wide. There are going to be a lot of people who recommend a lot of habits, a lot of routines, a lot of things. I want you to worry about you. What do you actually want to do? What do you actually consider productive and valuable? Not the influencers you're listening to, not even me up here, right? We just had a long conversation about meditate. If you don't value meditation, you're not going to get anything out of doing it, right? It has to be something that is true to you as well. And so I would also say, figure out a bit more about yourself. Figure out what your personality type is, man. Do a test. Figure out what your Enneagram is. Figure out your discommunication style. Figure out your chronotype. Figure out all these things about yourself. That's going to tell you so much about yourself that you're going to be able to lean into all kinds of different things that are going to feel so natural for you. And I think that if you do, actually doing the stuff I write in to-do lists. Yeah, and to-do lists are fine. But I think that doing this self-discovery, so some things I will put on your to-do list is figure out what your personality type is, your Enneagram, your discommunication style, and your chronotype. You can find free and reputable tests for all of these online, and that information will tell you a lot about yourself, a lot about your interests, a lot about your natural skills and gifts, a lot about what gives you fulfillment in life and what you should prioritize over other things. I think that understanding yourself first is the biggest step towards any kind of improvement, and that includes consistency and being productive over long periods of time, because you want to understand your sticking points. You want to understand, where do I fall short where other people are doing well, because we judge ourselves based on other people. Hamza's productive in this area. Why can't I be productive in this area? Well, it's because I don't actually care about it. I'm pretending to care about it because people think it's cool, and because this influencer said it was cool. It doesn't actually resonate with me though, so subconsciously I'm just not allowing myself to do it. It might sound silly to say, but that is what goes on for a lot of people. Rollins, what's up, man? Hope you're having a terrific day, man. It must be pretty late for you right now. Let's see. Close this chat briefly. All right. Yeah. And anybody who has other questions, feel free to pop up over here. And if not, you can just ask me in the audience. I'm cool with that too. Yeah. Yeah, fairly late. I've been working with a bunch of clients in your time zone, so I knew it had to be fairly late over there. How important do I feel long-term goal setting and purpose is in productivity? Wow, great question. So I think that purpose is super important. Purpose, out of any of the flow triggers, any of the things that drive us into deep, prolonged focused work, often comes from purpose, because purpose has more neurochemistry than a lot of the other triggers. Purpose releases a lot of norepinephrine, acetylcholine, dopamine, things that are actually very powerful for driving us into a deep focus state. And it comes up primarily in the form of intrinsic motivation. A lot of you guys, since you're in self-improvement, are going to be able to relate to what I'm about to say. A lot of times in our lives, when we don't have external rewards, when we don't have a lot of prizes or, making a lot of money for something, it can still be very easy for us to do those things when it's tied to our purpose. It's because when something's tied to our purpose, we're leveraging intrinsic motivation. We're doing something for a higher purpose, an end goal in mind. We're doing it for fun. We're doing it because it aligns. We're doing it because it resonates. And purpose opens us up to that because there's an inverse relationship between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So I think if you want to have any kind of longevity in anything you're doing in life, purpose should be probably the North Star for all of your motivation. Because when you build up that intrinsic motivation, you're going to be performing at your best, feeling your best, and just doing your best 24/7, regardless of whether you're making a lot of money in your business, regardless of whether employees are doing bad things and you don't like it, regardless of whether or not you're getting acknowledgement for the stuff that you do. When we link something to intrinsic motivation through purpose, we access all of that independent of the outside, right? This is essentially what it means to become outcome independent. We're doing this for the purpose. We're not doing it for the reward. It's a very powerful mindset shift. I think for long-term goals, it is the most important because oftentimes the long-term goal is the purpose, keeping in mind the purpose is not binary. It's your purpose could be to save the world, whatever that means to you. Save the world isn't a yes, I did it or no, I didn't do it. It's how did I contribute? Well, if I want to save the world, I'm going to build this huge organization that's going to help with all that. I'm going to contribute this much, and my organization is still going to be there when I'm gone, so I'm still going to be contributing. It's not binary. Goals, longer term goals like a 5-year goal could be binary, not purpose. Purpose is meant to be the North Star. Daily and weekly goals, I think it's very important for as well in a technical aspect. But for the North Star, definitely very important. Hope that answers your question. If you have any follow-ups, I would love to answer those as well. Yeah, and one more note that just came up to me on that. Let's see. Yeah. They also allow us to work backwards. So if you have a longer term goal, you can work it back into shorter term goals, and then you can work those shorter term goals down into daily goals. Helps you stay in KPI. So I think purpose is very important for building downward from that as well. As a final note there. What is hard work exactly? Well, that's a very loaded question because everybody's going to have a different opinion. Hard work could maybe be just characterized as something you don't like doing. And something that was spoken on this recently, Andrew Huberman, he's done a lot of research in neuroscience. I know you guys know who he is. He talked a lot about the I think it's the ACC or the ANC. It's a part of the brain that grows and is regulated by very difficult AMCC. Thank you. Yeah, so the AMCC. Yeah, anterior cingulate cortex, I believe it's called. And it grows and it develops when we do hard things. So there is value in doing hard work, but the caveat is it must be something that we don't enjoy. So if you grow to love cold showers, that's not hard work anymore. That's just a hobby now. Hard work would be something you don't enjoy. So for instance, maybe if you're somebody who is an endomorph doing running, endomorphs, who are typically people who gain muscle and fat very quickly from the nutrients that they take in, they're not usually built for running or long distance cardio. Take Bedros Keuilian, for example, very popular entrepreneur who is an endomorph and who owns a fitness brand. He hates running because his body wasn't designed for it, but he does it because it's hard work. And that's his characterization of hard work. Because number one, he wasn't built for it. I mean, he's a human, so of course he's built for it. He can do it. But in an ideal situation, he wasn't built for it. I am. I'm tall. I have long legs. I was built to be a long distance runner. But other people aren't like that. So maybe the hard thing for me would be working out. Maybe I don't like working out, and then that could be the hard thing. It all depends. It's very subjective, and it's different for everybody. So I can't give a one size fits all definition for hard work, unfortunately. All right, guys, I think we got enough time for a couple more questions, and then we're going to be capping this off. Controlling emotions in adversity. Great question. So, I think that, again, it's a very personal thing. What I think it would be very valuable for you to focus on. A lot of people have ideologies like Stoicism. A lot of people have ideologies like, there's so many philosophies, dude. I'm having trouble pulling up a perfect example for that, but Stoicism is a good one. We'll start with Stoicism. A lot of people love Stoicism because it is the gateway into a lot of that thinking and becoming independent of something that happens outside of us, and growing in that independence and leaning into that independence and becoming the same in your state when things happen that we don't like. The thing is, I feel if you really want to develop this, you need to develop the meditation. I think that that's very powerful because we want to look at our emotions through a lens almost. Now, here's the thing, guys. Being unreactive does not mean peace, okay? It does not mean peace. It never meant peace. Do you feel peaceful when you are confronted by somebody for something bad that you've done? Or are you peaceful when you have to tell a friend that they're violating your boundaries and get hard on them? Do you feel peaceful when you have to speak out against wrongdoing when you see it? No. It's impossible to not have an emotional reaction to these things. We're not silencing the emotion. And I know you said control, so here's my caveat. Controlling emotion is when we can feel the emotion, not reject it, not stifle it, not even feel an aversion towards it, right? Because emotions are there for a reason. Our body's telling us something. But we're looking at it through the lens of the state that we are in. So for example, if I got out of a meditation sit and I'm in metta, I can still yell at people when I'm in metta. I can still get mad at people when I'm in metta, but it's coming from a place of love now, because that's the lens I'm looking at reality through. Sometimes you're going to have to confront people out of a place of love. Think of an intervention that families have with somebody who's not in the right place in their life. You're doing it out of love, but you're going to have to get intense with people, and that's okay. It's not bad to do those things. You're not having an outburst when you're doing those things, right? You're in control because you're coming at it through that lens. And so I think that is the first step, is building up that lens. And personally, I do that through the meditation. People who do Stoicism might get into a lens of anticipation, right? A big thing in Stoicism is the death meditations. The death meditations and the fact that I'm not going to be here for very long. I'm remembering my death. I'm remembering my contribution. I want to be seen in this light. I don't want to represent these qualities that I don't think are good. I hope that answers your question, brother. All right, guys. I think I've got time for one more question. Any takers? And first of all, also, guys, I've absolutely loved speaking about this. Oh, wow. I don't know how I missed this. Somehow my eyes were glancing right over it. Is it bad that I let my emotions drive me and I don't ignore them and always follow them? For me, if I see discomfort, I use that emotion to find a way. Yep. Very relatable, brother. So the thing is that's very natural, right? This is kind of how humans do. When we're born, what is the first instinct we have? Move away from pain and towards pleasure. So anytime this is happening, it's almost actually a survival response. It's a thing that is very instinctual to us. We want to solve it as soon as it comes up. This is how our body tells us something is wrong. But that's just it. I want you to understand that bad emotions don't mean that something is wrong all the time. Now, our body can definitely tell us things through our emotions, but for the same reason that you can feel bad or sad for no reason, you can feel happy for no reason. Emotions don't always have a connection to something that's happening to or around us. I've had days where I've just felt sad for no reason, maybe a little disappointed. I had nothing to connect it to, and you know what? Not feeling aversion to these emotions and sitting with them, again, through the lens of metta, or whatever you are wanting your default state to be, seeing them through that lens, not judging them, but sitting with them and acknowledging those emotions, right? Happiness isn't about only feeling happy 24/7. It's about having that lens and having that lens stay strong no matter what emotion you're feeling, okay? So I would say the emotions aren't bad. It's maybe not even bad that you let those emotions drive you sometimes, right? What I think the difference is that emotions are going to drive you less when you learn to sit with them and understand them a little bit before acting on them. You don't have to sit down for 30 minutes, ask yourself a bunch of questions. That's super useful though. But I think see the emotions not as a part of you. People feel emotions and they're like, I am anger, I am sad, I am depressed, I am stressed. Like we said, emotions can arise from any thought in the world. Emotions are born and they die away. They're temporary. They're not us. We're not stressed. We're not depressed. We're not angry. We're feeling anger. We're feeling depressed. We're feeling sad. And that's okay. That's okay. Don't judge yourself. Don't feel aversion to it. This is a big problem I had when I was big into the approaching game and getting women in the beginning. I felt stress and I thought something was going wrong. I talked to my mentor about it and I was like, yeah, I tried doing this breathing exercise. I tried doing this thing, that thing, trying to eliminate the stress. He's like, no. You're looking at it the wrong way. We're not eliminating the stress. We're eliminating the aversion to the stress. Eliminating the aversion to the stress. That's when the real magic happens, when we remove the aversion to these feelings. Because who told you that feeling stress means you can't be at your best? Or feeling angry means you can't be at your best? Feelings are independent of who you are. Feelings are born and die away, but you're still here. Your awareness is still here. And use that awareness to work with these emotions, to work through these emotions, and to act independently of them. It's always a choice. And the more you build that awareness, the easier it's going to be. So I hope that answers your question, brother. We're getting a little closer toward the end here, but honestly, I do have time to answer some questions. Like maybe a couple, I guess, but short ones. We can't get philosophical too many more times here, guys, as much as I'd love to. We do have a time schedule here. Let's see. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, the great suggestion there. Journaling is another great one. How did I grow my beard out? I love this question. Super easy to answer. Copenhagen. It is a company online. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm not natty. I'm not. No, I am natural. Copenhagen is natural ingredients, but you apply it to beard hairs that are already growing. So like they call them vellus hairs, which are like, let's see, like if you have hairs on your face but it's peach fuzz, as long as the follicle is there. Yeah, anadermal. Oh no, not minoxidil. I don't touch that stuff. That stuff has side effects. No, not for me. But if you want to try Copenhagen, they don't have any chemicals or things that can cause adverse side effects. It's purely nourishing ingredients. You apply it to your face. You do the derma roller so it sends more blood to your follicles. And I saw some great beard growth. All right. It wasn't an overnight change, but over the period of, I would say, like 3-6 months. Yeah. Definitely a big change in the beard. Let's see. Taking steroids for the beard. I wonder if it would work. It is testosterone at the end of the day. Probably would get some beard growth. Will Zenith teach me how to grow as amazing of a beard as you? That would be more a personal conversation. But I'd say being a peak performer in every aspect of life is also involves hygiene. So yes, you will grow an amazing beard if that's your goal. I mean, I'm not a magician, but I help you do what you want to do. So. Yeah, you guys have been a great crowd, man. I love these questions. I love this energy. What does productivity mean to you? In its simplest form, the simplest definition I can give, productivity is about how much you can do with your time. Not necessarily with X amount of time or Y amount of time. Like, I don't see productivity as working 16 hours a day. Because if you're working 16 hours a day, all you're telling me is that you're poor at managing your time. Nobody should ever work 16 hours a day. I know all the tricks in the book. I don't work 16 hours a day. If you're working 16 hours a day, you're either doing too much intentionally or something's wrong with the way you're doing it. Okay? So productivity to me is about how much you can do in the same time in the same time, through flow, through systems, through execution, through clarity. So many different things that pour into productivity. But it's all about how much more you can do with your time. We're leveraging time. Average CEO works 30 to 90 minutes a day. They're not sleeping over at their office like everybody says they do. They did a study on it. 30 to 90 minutes a day. If they can move around the world in 30 to 90 minutes a day, what's stopping you from moving the world around in 30 to 90 minutes a day? Leverage that time, brother. Figure out what you can do to get more out of your time. Is that systems? Is that a virtual assistant? Is that team members? Is that flow? These are the questions to ask. All right, guys, we're gonna get ready to. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was study done on the Fortune 1000 CEOs. I can figure it out. It was a mentorship thing from Darren Hardy, and he mentioned it in one of his slideshows. I don't have the study directly, but he mentioned it when he was teaching. So, and Darren Hardy's not gonna lie to me. So, anyhow, guys have loved this meeting 100%. Very great hearing from you guys. Love answering your questions. I'm glad I was able to help some of you out, and any who I didn't, feel free to reach out, because this doesn't have to end here. You know, we're gonna get to work very soon. Those of you who are working with me inside of the Tribe Den, I would love to work with you guys if you are not, and applications are open. So, yeah, brothers, it's been great having this talk. It's been great meeting with you all. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and let's get it going. All right, guys.